Attention. It's morphin' time. If you're looking for Kamen Rider toys out of Japan, check out Hobbylink Japan and order with the link in the description below to help support the channel. Now on to the video. Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome back to another Kamen Rider complete selection modification video. Today we're looking at Kamen Rider Decade's Ridebooker. Now this was separate from the other Decade CSM stuff. It needed a little bit more time in development, but it's finally here. I previously reviewed the Decadriver 2.0 and K-Touch set. I did the card set extra, and I did a comparison with the CSM2 to CSM1. So if you haven't seen those, go check them out. This is just adding to that. This is going to be kind of, I think this is the last CSM Decade 2 video until there's like Neo-Decade stuff. But for now, this is all we got. So this is the Ridebooker. As you can see, it's got sword form here. We've got the symbols of the main 10 riders along the top. On the other side of the box, we got the Ridebooker in gun form. And then on the bottom, all your legal text, including the US distribution sticker. So pretty simple box overall, but it is pretty nice and compact considering everything you get. But yes, let's take a look at the CSM Ridebooker as well as comparing it to the original deluxe toy. All right, so here's the Ridebooker itself. The Ridebooker is Decade's primary card storage as well as his main weapons. It's actually kind of a cool design because essentially, this is sort of like just a container. I always kind of thought that it should be like a film canister since there's the whole camera theme. This is the Ridebooker. Now there was no Ridebooker with the CSM 1.0, same how there was no K-Touch. That first CSM was definitely not focusing on the complete part of complete selection modification, but we finally got a new Ridebooker here, and it looks fantastic. So they gave it the white, silver, black matte, along with the Decade barcode symbol etched in there. On the handle, this part is a rougher texture, again, kind of going with that camera texture we talked about with the Decadriver itself, which is pretty awesome. Nice silver painted areas here and here, as well as here. There is a speaker hole in the back, as this does have sound effects, much like the original deluxe toy did, and this is a adapter for a holster. In terms of the Ridebooker, it normally hangs on Decade's hip, naturally comes with a belt clip. So this one is essentially similar style to the others. It's Velcro. So this Velcro's around the belt. We'll show that off in a little bit. And then you attach it there, and then all you gotta do is line up that kind of hex shape to this, and then turn, and boom. And what's nice about this compared to the deluxe one, where the deluxe one would free hang, this one actually locks into place. So it's actually not going to go anywhere hanging on your hip, which is really, really nice to see. And I think it's a nice, solid design. But like I said, we'll attach that to the belt later. Let's keep looking at the main functions of this thing. So of course it is a book primarily. That's why it's called the Ridebooker. In order to open it, it's actually kind of hidden. So there's a little trigger button here. You push that down and then open it up. And I've got the Ridebooker on the inside. So this has that kind of cross design that appears on Decade with his symbol. It's very similar to the interior of the original, except it does have one difference that we'll look at in a moment. Opening this up, on this side will be the side to grab cards from. And I found that you can actually fit about 7 cards into this. So we're gonna put in Decade, Slash, Blast, Illusion, Invisible, Final Attack, Ride Decade, and we're going to squeeze in Recadizanto and Decade Violent Emotion, because you actually can get about 7 in here without it being overly crowded. So I'm just going to push those in, and we'll close this up, and then that way you can pull the cards out the top. And then being plastic also helps with that. As you can see, it kind of pulls 2, so maybe I think we'll just go with 6. Let's go with 6 cards instead of 7. Just to make it a little bit simpler for operation. You can squeeze 7 in there, but it's probably going to work better with 6. Let's see. Yeah, that's fine. 6 still pulls an extra card. So let's go down to 5. Let's just go with the basic 5 cards here. That's probably going to work better. Let's see. Can we pull a card without pulling the next one? Yeah, all right. We can go with 5. I think we'll go with 5 on that side. That's just going to be kind of, not much space. It is spring-loaded. It just feels like there's room. I'm going to stick this one back in there. All right, we're going to do 6. So we're going to have 6 on one side, and then on the other side, not much, because they wanted to keep this panel kind of nice and small to look more show accurate. So you can only hold about 5 or 6 cards. So you can put 5 in, so we're going to put Kuga through blade. We'll just stick them in. So you can put 5 in here comfortably. Just slot them in like that. And then you can put this little latch over them so they don't go anywhere, which is cool. However, they're not really going to go anywhere otherwise. I don't really know what the point of the latch is, because if you don't put the latch on, you can stick Hibiki back here. But you see, because the latch doesn't fit at that point. It only fits if you've got 5. 5 you can latch it, 6 you can't. So we're just going to put Hibiki back there just to feel like we put more cards in here. So we got 12 cards in the Booker, and it's good to go. Now, like I said, there's sound effects. So we're going to pull the handle, which in order to move the handle, you press down here. We're going to turn it on. So get that cool card sound that you would expect from normal Decade stuff. But of course, there also is a dialogue mode, because that's just how CSMs work. If you hold down this button here. So we'll go through those differences in a little bit, because they don't really play into the book form. So having this like this, you have the option, of course, to open the book. And then you can pull a card like Decade does. And it just hits this little button. So you get that kind of revving sound for the ride cards, and that just... Except now it's not working. All right, so yeah, if they're overlapping too much, it will not work. No sounds on this side, but like you can see that they're not really going anywhere. So yeah, I mean, it basically just works like the basic Ridebooker should. Now, of course, it's not all this thing does, as I'm loading the cards back in, but that is the original basic book functions. Now, of course, because it's CSM, we have a special button that activates more show-accurate sounds. So this button here is going to be the green section. So pushing the button once will get you the sound of a card sticking out. And then the other one is more iconic. It's the card turning over sound. So that's the sound when Tsukasa has the card, and then he flips it to put it in the driver. And so it just cycles between the two of those. Now, if you hold it down, you get some different versions. So the first sound will be a card losing its power, which happened in the first episode. And then you have different versions of the cards appearing. So with the blank cards from the original CSM, like Kuga, for example, so you get the card pattern re-emerging sound Kuga, which is when Kuga's powers got restored. And then if you hold it down again, you get the Blade and Fai's version. Then the Deno version. Then the Kabuto, Hibiki, Black, and Amazon version. And then you get the one for the Rekka Daizanto card appearing. And then lastly, you get the iconic sound of Decade Traveling Worlds, when that giant gray wall comes through. So pretty cool, basic sound effects overall. Now, when it comes to the Booker itself, that's pretty much all it does. It holds on the hip, it does the little book sounds, and you can activate those extra sounds. Before we do the weapon forms, I think it's important to show the difference between the original Deluxe Ridebooker and the new one. So clearly they got the magenta color more accurate. This one's more of a pink, this one's more of a magenta. The overall size is reduced. So if you look at the original Deluxe one compared to the CSM, this one is a little bit thinner. That's why it holds less cards, because the original one actually had a much deeper caveat or cavity. In this area, you could hold like a good 15 cards in that. So you can actually kind of see that the new one is thinner, and the handle here is not as chunky. This gray piece here is gray plastic as opposed to the nice painted plastic. And of course, you don't have the buttons. So this one's way more accurate, and it's definitely a unique mold. They did not retool this from this. In terms of the actual belt connector, or the backs of these, as you can see, the speaker is here, whereas on this one, I think the speaker's in the handle, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the speaker's in the handle, which is what made it bigger. So again, more accurate. And in terms of the connections here, so this is the holster on the Deluxe one, which just loosely spins and also hangs super low when it shouldn't hang that low, versus the CSM, where once again, it locks it in place and it doesn't hang as low off the belt, so it's a little bit easier to put on a display stand. Once again, we'll look at that compatibility later. But most importantly, the biggest difference between these two is the way the weapon system works, because on the original Ridebooker, if you want the gun form, you push this button, boom, that's the gun form. That's it. If you want the sword form, you pull this out, and then you pull out the little butter knife. And that's how you get the sword form. So this is all we had since 2009. I think it's time to do something much more exciting. So in the series itself, the prop actually would mass shift a little bit. So it would transform. It's supposed to be the same item between all of it, but much like with the SH Figuarts release, they use 3 different props. Now for the CSM version, they managed to make this work modularly. So we got these extra pieces here because we're going to turn it into gun form. As you can hear, when you move the handle, it makes a sound now. And then you push down this little tab. There's a little button here. Push this down, pull this off. This is how you get the battery cover off. You have to pop that and it slides down, but we're not worried about that. And then you slide on this piece, which gives you a much longer handle on the gun form. And then to make it look even more proper, you rotate this out and you rotate this in, and then boom, there is the properly sized gun form. So while it may not necessarily be one-to-one because it is modifying a certain item as opposed to replacing it, you get a much longer handle and you get a much better gun barrel. And then pushing this button will get you sound effects. So pretty cool. I think you get the idea. Now if we switch to dialogue mode, and then you press the button, you actually get his little grunts. So that's pretty cool. Now, in order to go from this to sword form, of course, we're gonna need another couple pieces. So taking gun form, we're gonna switch the muzzle out again, just quick and simple, and it rolled all the way on the floor because it's round. All right, there we go, we got that. We're gonna extend the handle again, so you can hear that different sound. We're gonna attach these 2 bracket pieces, which these were mentioned on a separate instruction sheet and didn't really have a place in the foam tray, which says to me that these were added later, just for easier stability. So you just line these up over there and then they just click on top of each other. Boom. Now the handle won't move as easily. Now you see this part here that looks like the folded up blade on the deluxe one? It's not actually that. This is a button. So you push it down and you can slide the, oh gosh, I just did this a little bit. There we go. Push it down, slide it open, this piece ejects, and now we can attach the new blade. And the new blade, as you figure out which angle it goes in, is quite a bit longer, and we're gonna have to change camera angles to show off the rest of this form. All right, so here is the full size of the Ridebooker in slash mode, technically slash mode, it's sword mode. So as you can see, the sword is quite big. This is supposed to be close to full size. I don't think it's a exact 1-to-1, but it's pretty dang close. It actually feels pretty good with those bracer pieces here. You don't feel like the handle's gonna go anywhere, and it's got a good weight to it, especially because like there's some cards in here, but not a ton. The blade itself is there's a slight more rubbery part here, but this is pretty solid plastic. So if you clang somebody with it, it probably will still hurt. Of course, if you press the trigger button, you do get some sound effects. So those are kind of randomized. And then if you hold it down, you get the sound effect of Decade swiping his blade. So pretty cool. And then of course it does have dialogue mode, where if you hold this down and turn it on. Now when you do the slashes, that sort of thing. So pretty good. I mean, in terms of like the fact that they got all the modes to work and made them full size this time is pretty fantastic. And yeah, there's not too much else to say besides the fact that, well, having it in the sword forms, I mean, you can, which is pretty cool. I do like full size sword stuff. So what's also neat is that this thing is pretty big. So like I said, it is quite large. Now I don't have any other Kamen Rider swords to compare to. I don't have any other, like I don't have like CSM Kaisa's blade, but I do have the Memorial Ryu Soulken, which the Sentai division of Bandai made, which you can see that the Decade one, if I can do this correctly with my microphone cord, line them up at the bottom there. The Decade Ridebooker is just slightly, let's see, let's flip this way actually. Because we'll trying to get an even split there. The Decade Ridebooker is just about the same length. So they are about the same, which is pretty good. I do like the functionality of having large sword. I don't have any of the Kamen Rider Saber full-size swords either, but pretty cool. It is in that same size class. I did want to compare it to a couple other just larger Toku swords, namely the most dangerous toy of 2011, the Samurai Mega Blade, because this is I think Bandai of America's biggest like kids line thing. So this is outclassing that by a bit. But when you compare it to something like the Legacy Saba, which is still like the heaviest, get the blade here. So if we extend the blade on Saba, you can see that the Decade Ridebooker is actually longer. Let's do end to end. I know one of them's got a tiger head at the end, but if you look at that, lining it up just about right, looks like Decade is just a little bit longer than Legacy Saba, which is pretty good. This guy weighs like about 6 times the weight of this because of the electronic part in the bottom, and it does sort of wiggle in the middle. This feels a little bit more sturdy. But there is that, and then I think the Legacy Gold Power Staff is still I think this is still the largest full-size Toku weapon officially produced. If I'm not wrong, I still think this is the longest one lengthwise. Let's get this in frame. Let's get the no, the Gold Power Staff still is bigger. I don't know about the Legacy Power Sword or the Lightning Collection Power Sword. They may be a little bit longer. I don't know. But in terms of this, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember this being longer than everything else, I believe this is still the longest weapon. And that's still the case. Decade's not dethroning this thing. I still love this thing. It was like the last thing I bought that Bandai of America made for Power Rangers. But anyways, I guess that's about it. So, sounds, size, roleplay, it's cool. I like it. And it's nice to have. It's especially such an upgrade from the butter knife, which I should bring over to do a we'll do one more comparison. So CSM Ridebooker Deluxe Oh god, I gotta like avoid making a puberty joke, but like anyways, this is yeah, there's no comparison. I mean, the book size is a little bit bigger on this one, but the blade length is a whole there's hardly even a point to comparing them. They're the same device, but I think if you're buying a Ridebooker and you want the sword form, this is the way to go. 100%. Now, of course, to remove the blade, there is this little button here. You push it in, and this whole piece slides out, and then we can slide this piece back in. And then to get this off, you gotta pop these from the they're like a little overlap clasps. So you just get a fingernail in, which is why I haven't cut my fingernails, because I knew this video was coming. And I would need to do this. So once you get these, this can be kind of tricky. Once you get those off, you got that. Now we're back in gun form. Push the little button here, slide that off. Put this little cap back on, and then fold it up again. And now we're back in Booker form. And honestly, the modularity of this is pretty dang cool. Okay, so here's the Decadriver. And while there's no direct interaction with the belt, you can, of course, attach this to the belt. So we're just gonna Velcro this on to the side. As you can see, it lines up perfectly with the size of the belt strap, which is great to see considering that it's supposed to work with it. So you can see it lines up pretty good. We've got this thing up as high as possible, and yeah, you're gonna have to adjust it slightly. Now, for me personally, this isn't too much of an issue. If you have a single Daiza and you're displaying your CSM Decade, that's not going to quite fit. For me, though, I gotta say it's not too much of an issue considering I have multiple Daizas. So, for example, if we put this on top of the Neo, hey, there you go. Now you can have it sort of hanging. If you have a couple Daizas, it's going to work out pretty great. If you only have the one, you're probably going to have to just leave the Ridebooker off to the side unless you have this supported with something that has an overhang. So like if you have this on the edge of a shelf, it will work pretty good overall. We're going to leave it up this high for simplicity, but how does it work as a roleplay item? Well, we can open the book, we can open the driver, we can pull a card, we can put the card in, and that pretty much serves the purpose of the Ridebooker. It makes a nice companion piece, and it does feel like it completes the look. Speaking of complete, this is now the true complete selection modification Decadriver 2.0. We got the Ridebooker, we got the K-Touch, we got the driver on the side. That is the complete Decade lineup for complete form, And honestly, it took a while to get here. It's the main reason I went in on all the CSM Decade 2.0 stuff, even though I had the 1.0, because I didn't have a CSM K-Touch, I didn't have a CSM Ridebooker. So it feels nice to finally complete this set. So picking up a couple things from last time I missed, I did get comments about this, and that there was some sound variation when you have the Decade belt piece on the side. I'm just going to hold it like this because it's going to be much easier to use. But when you have it in complete form, you have this on the side. The Kamen Ride Diend and Final Attack Ride Diend make slightly different sounds. So first of all, if you so let's just do this as a comparison, so that way, you know, go check out the other comparison video where I use all the Diend cards in the CSM 2.0. But if you use it normally, so that's pretty normal. But if you have it on the side buckle, and then you use the Diend card, it gives you a Final Attack Ride sound like it did in the final episode of Decade. So that is a secret sound that I missed. This other one, there apparently is a variation in Final Attack Ride when you use it on the driver versus on the side buckle. So here is the driver form. So that sounds like Diend's normal attack. And then we'll put it on the buckle. And that sounds pretty identical to the Diend Kamen Rider card being used in the side buckle as well. So there's some extra sounds that we'd missed, and I think that was about it outside of a Gosei card, which I'm still working on options to show that off, and it'll show up in some future video when that happens. So while not an essential piece for everybody, the CSM Ridebooker was something I was really looking for in the CSM 2.0 project, in addition to the K-Touch. I think the K-Touch was definitely more important, but it was nice to get like a nice, updated, more accurate, modular Ridebooker. Like, I mostly just wanted the book form to complete the belt look, but the fact they gave us a full-size sword and the gun parts is just fantastic, and I really, really like it. I don't really have too many other complaints with this. The price-wise was not horrible considering the full-size blade. A lot of the full-size swords have been more expensive. But it's going to depend on your own personal taste if you actually really need a Ridebooker or not. And I hope this video was informative in some way doing that. For me personally, totally worth it, and I definitely am glad to have this. And I also do like that, unlike some of the other full-size swords which we compared to, this one folds up nice and neat. I'm probably going to keep all the parts in the box and just kind of keep the box next to the shelf because it's honestly a nice storage piece. But overall, I would recommend this if you are a Decade diehard, and I definitely think it was worth it, and yeah, I quite enjoy it. So if you enjoyed this video as well, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, notification bell. There'll definitely be more Kamen Rider in the future, though I may take a slight break. I've been doing a lot of Kamen Rider lately, mostly because CSM stuff was rolling back to back between Decade and Agito. But there will be more Kamen Rider stuff in the future, as well as other types of videos you can check out on the channel right now. Also, be sure to leave a comment down below and let me know any questions or comments you have about the Ridebooker. And till next time, check out Hero Club at hero-club.com for news, reviews, and more. Also, check out my awesome graphic designer on Twitter at darkclaw643. And until next time, this is Soundout saying goodbye.